goals and their problems and their strategies, and then follow it by the statements for detailing the present state of affairs. The third type of presentation is informative presentation. This presentation basically consists of educating the audience. The audience can be your peer, it can be your team members, or your subordinates in an office. So it consists of status report, summaries. They start with the overall goal that follows the action and specific plans. So in basically simple terms, a business presentation plays a vital role in the advancement of any organization. And we have to understand the importance of business presentation, or for that matter, any kind of presentation, because it all depends on the purpose of a presentation. It can be academic, it can be business. Like if I am delivering a talk, it is purely academic. But when you will be doing in your future career or profession, you will be delivering a business presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, so here we will be talking about the importance of presentation. We need to consider the needs and interest of the audience while we are presenting it, right? So there has to be, because every presentation has a human touch. That is why it is always prioritized. It carries the speaker's personality in it. It allows certain amount of interaction. You get to know others' opinions. It is like it develops constructive ideas, and it is very well organized and customized and well structured. So that is why we need a presentation, because presentations are often utilized by the organization or companies as a way to sell any product or any idea, for motivating the audience and training purposes. The presentator needs to prepare and then rehearse a business presentation to become confident. Now, the first important aspect is to understand that a presentation allows you to connect with the audience. Now, what do you mean by connect? It is like developing a memorable bond or an experience between the audience and the presenter. So it is created by interactive presentation. That only happens when you talk to your audience and allow them to come up with their ideas. This type of presentation involves the audience and helps in developing a connect in the entire team or the members of the audience. Secondly, it is informative in nature. Every listener who wants to know about the main nuggets of the information, such as learning the tricks of the trade for improving the performance, or how to overcome any problem, how to deal with any project, all these things are to be informed through a presentation. A great presentation leaves the audience with a good piece of information that should be an eye opening or enlightening or knowledgeable in your best way possible. The next is that a presentation should be inspiring. Now, it is very important that a presentation should be able to capture the attention of the audience. It should consist the element of a story. It should be full of anecdotes, some humor element. There should be some lessons in it, some conflicts, some resolution, how to deal with the problems, so on and so forth. So in addition to this, it requires focusing on the important points right from the beginning. So whenever you deliver a presentation, it has to inspire. Now, why I'm talking about all this? Because I assume that you, being the technical students, must be already aware of how a presentation is made. But I am talking mostly about the soft skill, the training part of your personality. So all these things that cannot be measured, that cannot be measured through any method, will be discussed here. Now, it has to be appealing. Now, what does appealing mean? It has to be like a treat to the eyes, treat to the soul. The impact of any presentation on audience is also affected by using visual or physical props. Some of the factors that mostly appeal the audience are like screen projectors. You use handouts, some kinds of cards in your hands. So all these factors, they mostly appeal the audience. However, the exact impact of the props greatly depends on the relevance of the presented information, then we cannot rule out the significance of these little elements that can add a lot of confidence to you. Right, next slide please. Okay, so we talk about the elements of presentation. Now, coming to the little technical part of it, there are four important elements. One is the content, structure, complete package, and the human element of it. Right. You must always remember that people judge your competence by the confidence that you show through your body language, through your appearance, and so on and so forth. Remember that all iconic presenters of today, they were some or the other time shy little kids back then. So never feel underconfident about presenting something. Start wherever you can, whenever you can. Just plunge into it. Right? Can I have the next slide? All right, so let's get started. How a presentation should be made? What should be the content? So in a content, there has to be required information. There has to be relevant information. Try not to clutter your slides with too much of facts and figures and text in it. You should be able to catch the audience's attention. Just help them be absorbed in it, be completely involved in it, right? So it also, when you're making a content, try to suit it to the stipulated time. Do not go beyond. And I'm telling you, nobody has ever complained about finishing within the time or before time. But the moment you exceed the time, you tend to lose interest of the audience, right? So time management is a very important factor, and the success of your presentation will be judged not by the knowledge you send, but by the information that is received by the listeners. Because unless your message is conveyed properly, you are not a successful presenter. Next slide, please. Okay, now we'll talk about the structure, how it should be structured. There is a proper method of doing it. Everything has a method in madness, so why not a presentation? So the first thing important is you have to greet them in a very pleasant way. Have a smile, greet them nicely, and then follow the logical order, like proper beginning, proper body, conclusion. I'll talk about how it should be begin and what should be the way to conclude it. So the pace that you use also contributes. When it is structured, try to limit the text in such a way that your pace should match with the slides that you have used. The structure has to be clear to follow. When there is a huge audience, when there are more people than expected, then it is very important to understand and keep in mind that your language should be simple so that you can connect with each one of them. It has to be more effective, and we'll talk about how we can make an effective presentation. And towards the end, try to wrap up well, try to summarize in the most effective manner, and always remember that whatever you conclude, it has to be like the points that are there on your fingertips that will help the audience to relate to whatever you have spoken. So you can always, towards the end, invite questions to see if your audience has grasped anything or not, or if they have any doubts to be clarified. And that's how you can ultimately bring out a good structure of your presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, now it has to be a complete package. By that, I mean you have to go very well prepared, because if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. It's a very common adage that goes behind everything that you do. So you must try to rehearse your presentation, and try to practice as much as possible if you are new into it. After a couple of presentations, you will be thorough. You'll yourself be a pro person in it, and you won't require much of presentation practice. But in the beginning, it is prerequisite to practice and look yourself into the mirror and see where you need to improve. And there are three main P's that you must remember: that preparation, practice, and perfection. These are very important aspects, and they have to go hand in hand with your presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, now the human element, the soft skill part of it. All right, so we have to remember that I talked about the connect. So developing connect is one thing that the human can provide while he's delivering a presentation. The other aspect is there is huge amount of information available. What is the requirement of a person to deliver a presentation? It is only because they can develop the ideas from points, the bullets that have been written, the points to gather the right information, the right amount of information, and present it in the most interesting, organized way, and make it so constructive that it allows the audience to be able to contribute to it. They should find it engaging. That is the value of a human element. Otherwise, there is a lot of information available on presentation skill. Why would you want a teacher or a session on such a thing? It is only because when we talk to somebody and we listen, we are able to understand better, because there's a right amount of pace, there is right amount of information that is delivered, and there is some kind of impact that is left on your mind, and there are certain things that cannot be clarified by just the media. So there is a clear transition between one slide to another, and the overall appearance also is very soothing. May I have the next slide, please? Okay, now I'll tell you the importance of language in a presentation. We can never underestimate the beauty of language, and there are various ways of improving your language. But in order to make you understand, I'll just again quickly give you a small story. It's a very famous story in literature, and the title goes Complain, Complain, and Complain. It takes a disciplined spirit to endure the monastery on Mountain Sinet in Spain. So I'm talking about how it happened there. So it's a very short story. Just try and focus. So one of the fundamental requirement of this religious order is that young men must maintain silence. When they maintain silence, they are allowed to just grasp things, to understand and learn, and just take the inputs. Now then, after a couple of years, after rather 2 years precisely, they are given opportunity to speak on scheduled day after every 2 years, at which time they are allowed to speak only 2 words. They don't have to utter anything else. Now that is a very challenging part. Now, one young initiative in this religious order, who had completed his first 2 years of training, so he was given this opportunity and he was allowed to talk. He was invited by his superiors to make his first 2 word presentation. Right. Now, he just said, food terrible, and went off. Then, after another 2 years, he was again invited and he was extended this opportunity. And then again, he offered 2 more words. And then he proclaimed, bed lumpy. So the first 2 words were food terrible. After 2 years, he said bed lumpy. And the third time, after again 2 years, when he was again invited, he proclaimed, I quit. So these are the 3 presentations he made of 2 words each. Now the superior looked at his young monk and said, do you know, it doesn't surprise me a bit. All you have done since you have arrived is complain, complain, complain. Now, exactly, maybe. But if you were asked to share 2 words that describe your life, would you focus on the lumps and the bumps and the unfairness and the discomfort, or anything that has pissed you off over the years, or you commit to dwell on those things that are good and right and lovely and positive? So it is completely up to you to decide what exactly you're going to present, because words matter. So choose them wisely, because each and every word that you utter in a presentation shows a lot about your attitude. Whether you are positive or negative, or you're optimistic towards life altogether, or what is the approach that you have towards anything in life. Right. So that is the importance of language. It is very easy to deliver a lecture of 1 hour or 2 hours presentation, but it is very difficult to be crisp and precise and say something in the less words and make it more effective. So that is the importance of language. Next slide, please. Okay. We talk about preparation now. If you cannot, now let me just remind you that if you cannot communicate or talk to other people or audience or get across your ideas, you're giving up on your potential. Never forget that you give up on your potential without having tried the right way of communicating it. So preparation goes a long way in leaving an impact, and preparation is everything, because that helps you gain confidence. It helps you take charge of your project or presentation. It helps you engage the audience. So everything that you have, because you are on the hot seat, you are the one who has to lead the entire group or the audience. So you have to decide what exactly are you going to do with your audience, how are you going to navigate through your presentation, and how are you, what is your objective towards it, how are you going to deal with it. So ask why have you come here from. If I am here for, suppose, presentation skill topic, and I just keep talking about something else, you would lose interest, and the purpose of your presentation will be completely knocked down. So everything is important, and everything comes in preparation. Time is also very important. As I mentioned earlier, time management is so important, that you have to understand the relevance and the quality over quantity. Try to focus on limited things. Don't try to be over ambitious. Don't try to cover everything that you know, because your purpose is to bring the relevant information at the appropriate time, and not just clutter the audience with everything that you have. That is being very unfair with the audience that you have in hand. Now your method has to, it all depends on the objective that you have, whether it is formal or informal, how to go about it with the visuals, or the humor, the anecdote, anything and everything. It all comes under preparation. So you have to choose wisely, you have to be very selective and appropriate at that moment, because there are always three kinds of speeches. One, that I have actually given. The second one, the one that I have practiced, and the third, that I would wish I would have given. So there are three. Now that means there are many a times you think that you've given your best, but after you present and you reflect on your speech, you might wonder that I could have done a little better. This is not what I had expected from myself. So you wish you had given a speech like Tharoor, or maybe Mr. Modi, or maybe anybody of your choice. So when you wish to do something like someone or present something, you have to really work on yourself. That is the time when you have to understand your flaws and your lacunas, and you have to pinpointedly note down and work on yourself. And that goes under preparation. May I have the next slide, please? Okay. Now, after preparation, after you're prepared with your presentation, you have to rehearse well. Rehearse, as in, you have to try to be familiar with your ideas and your words. Try to familiarize by standing in front of the mirror, talking to yourself, and looking at your expressions, whether it is pleasing or not, whether you're delivering at the right intonation and modulation or not. You have to, while you work, you understand, you identify your weaknesses, you recognize your strengths, your articulation becomes even more clear, and there is a lot of scope of improvement when you rehearse. You can modify your speech, you can modify your words and your script, everything. And while you're doing it, you can anticipate the questions that your audience might pose at you. So while you're doing it, you are overcoming all your inhibitions. In the process of anticipating the questions, you are getting over each and every inhibition. Inhibition is anything that holds you back from delivering your best. So remember, the difference between a good presentation and a bad presentation is the time that you invest in it, the rehearsal that you have given behind it, the preparation that has gone behind it, right? May I have the next slide, please? Okay, now this is the KISS principle. Now, KISS principle, as the word suggests, keep it simple and stupid. By stupid, I don't mean you have to be dumb while presenting your ideas. The whole idea of stupid simple is to make it intelligible. to make it clear to everyone who's available, because not everyone has got similar level of intellect. Not everybody's understanding is as fast as other people have. So there is a huge variety of people in the audience, and their grasping power is different, and that is why we have to make it simple and stupid, so that it is intelligible to the layman also. So the objective of the KISS principle is, you don't have to strut your expertise. You have to create a link with the audience. You have to present the simplified version of your speech. You have to be clear, crisp, and precise, because brevity takes time. I can deliver a long speech in long time, but if I have to limit myself and make it simple and make it precise, it will really take time. We have to think, how do we have to present so that we uh, are successful in delivering it in the right way. Be elegant. By elegance, I mean not to overload, or not to clutter your slides, or not to just keep talking and talking without making sense. Right? So you can use phrases and quotes to create a buzz. And because the KISS principle, the simplicity, is absolutely different from social media. There is a difference between KISS and social media, because the media allows us to delve with huge amount of information, but KISS principle allows us to choose as per the requirement of the presentation, the needs of the audience. And that is why we have teachers and we have presenters who will allow us to remain focused and confined to what we are here for, because simplicity is actually the achievement of maximum effect with minimum means. So as I have already told you, that no audience will ever complain about being too short, right? Now, what are the benefits of KISS principle? All right, so there is something called problem solver. When you are simple, you are able to solve anybody's problem in the most effective way. You produce high quality output. You're understandable, you're intelligible. You will be able to pull it off in a very easy and carefree manner. It will be so effortless that you will not have any problem in dealing with any situation. Now, I have chosen these four pictures to show you that how KISS principle works with any kind of situation. You can see that when you ask for rating, there is just an illustration that speak volumes. You don't have to work hard on it. Then we can see that just one word explains a lot. So choose the right kind of word. So before you become a good presenter, or you work on your presentation skills, I always advise, work on your communication first, work on vocabulary, work on being grammatically correct. Keep practicing all that. So once you are confident with your communication skills, no no presentation or any kind of public speaking will ever bother you in future. Next slide, please. Okay. So here I talk about delivery, the importance of delivery, because most of the speeches effectiveness lies in what is said than how it is said, rather, but how it is said. So basically, we have to understand the importance of well timed silence, that sometimes silence also speaks a lot. You have to go slow, take pauses in between, so that you ensure that your audience has grasped what you have delivered so far. Otherwise, your message will not be conveyed properly. If you make yourself understood, you're always speaking well. You have to assure yourself that when you have delivered it properly, when your message is conveyed properly, that is the time when you can be assured that your presentation has gone well, your people have understood you, and that determines your success. Otherwise, you will end up becoming nervous for the next time onwards. Because let me tell you, students, delivery is one thing that has nothing to do with the merit. If you are a person of high merit, that does not mean that you will be able to deliver a presentation in the appropriate way. A person with low merit, if he delivers in a better way, will be more recognized, will get more fame than a person with high merit and poor communication skills or poor delivery skills. Because anything that you deliver makes it decides rather how impressive it is going to be. So try to focus on how you deliver it. And for delivery, of course, I would again suggest go back to the presentation slide and preparation slide and see how you can practice it. So be impeccable with what you speak. Speak with integrity. Say something with proper assertion, affirmation, with complete positive energy, because whatever you say, look into the eyes of people and then deliver. They should be able to believe in you, and you can only be believed when you believe in yourself, when you believe in the words that you say. Unless you believe, you cannot convince the audience, right? And it all goes with your expression. So everything boils down to the preparation part. Next slide, please. Okay, now this is a very important aspect. In the previous session, also somebody asked me about the stage fright. Now, let me tell you, students, this I'm going to deal in a very detailed manner, because many a times at this level, in undergraduate level, we face this kind of stage fright. And I must tell you, there are children who have always taken, active participation. They have taken any kind of competition with that stride, and they've always volunteered for it. But there are children who have never participated. But at the end of the day, when they have to choose a career, that is the time then they will have to face presentation in future. So it is always important to work on your stage fright right from the beginning. Stage fright is what? It is basically, communication apprehension. It means that a person is afraid of speaking in public. It is something to do with your inner fears. Surveys have indicated that 80 to 90% people admit to feeling extremely uncomfortable about public speaking, and that's a very common thing. There is nothing to feel shy about or get discouraged about. It is very, very common. You can always deal with it. The good news is that you can work on it and you can excel it. You will have expertise over and over a period of time. Now it happens because your body is flooded with energy. There is an adrenaline rush in your body. You're so much anxious. You have so much fear in you because you sense certain kind of emergency situation, or maybe you fear judgment, you fear criticism or rejection, and you fear, what if people don't like it? What if somebody criticizes? What if somebody judges? So we don't like to be judged. And that is what creates that fear in us. And that fear ultimately leads to stage fright. Now, there are various symptoms that we notice in ourselves. And you can always work on yourself, try to introspect and try to understand and know yourself. What are the symptoms that you get while you are standing on a stage and going to present, right? So it will happen first few presentations again. However, even an expert also gets that stage fright every time. But it goes, the time reduces, the time of anxiety reduces over the period of time. Next slide, please. Now I'll talk about the fear of failure. There are various symptoms that you perspire. There is some, your mind gets blank. You get dry mouth. You get rapid headache. You get some palpitation. Some butterflies in your stomach. You get sweaty palms. You get cold feet. All those things happen because of that shyness, because of the anxiety that you're feeling, the performance anxiety. Because this stage fright is the biggest enemy, and we need to fight with the enemy than to run away or withdraw ourselves. Because the more we confront, the more we fight with it, the easier it becomes to deal with anything in future like that. Because ultimately, if we don't fight with it, it is going to ruin our voice, our posture, our ideas, our overall impression, and completely shatters us for the future projects and presentations. Next slide, please. Now let us talk about how to conquer the stage fright. Conquering fright is not so difficult though, but yes, there are various ways in which we can do this. First thing is to know what you're going to talk about. If you are not aware of your content, it is definitely going to create fright. So try to be absorbed in your talk. from the day you get to know that you're going to deliver till the day of your presentation. Be absorbed in it. Try to work on it as and when you get time. I don't recommend sitting on it throughout the day, but try to, when you are having your breakfast, just think about what ideas would you like to incorporate, something that you missed out. Just keep noting down somewhere and be absorbed in it, and try to give yourself some feedback whenever you've written something. Try to review your clips and be at ease. There is nothing to fear, because if you're prepared, you are going to do your best. You only fear because of your inner apprehensions. Nobody judges you, nobody is even bothered about what you are doing. They are only there to listen to you. They want you to speak. They are the ones who are sitting here to encourage you. Deal with it and keep going. While you're standing on stage, try to identify the amicable faces, happy faces. There are people who will always nod, and there are always people who will smile. In the first go, try and scan the audience, try and identify those faces who are smiling at you, try to focus on them. Avoid any kind of irritating people. There may be people who are just not interested, they're looking here and there, they're talking to each other, or they're making some uncomfortable faces. Don't even look at them, just focus on the good amicable faces and make an eye contact with them. That person will definitely encourage you. That person will keep emanating good vibes to you while you speak, right? uh, Next slide, please. Okay, now let me tell you. Okay, I have something to tell. Please go back to the previous slide. There are many a times that I wanted to talk about a book that I had read by Matt Abrahams, and the title of the book is Speaking Up Without Freaking Out. So you freak out many a times, and let us see. I have just encapsulated certain points based on that book. First thing is, remember that you're not alone. Tell yourself that it is normal to be anxious. This makes you prepare harder and do a good job. Even most seasoned speakers do that. Right. Second point is, memorize the first few minutes of your talk. When you are sure about the first few minutes, that is the time when you have your, fears overpowering you. That is the time you have to reduce it. So the anxiety is at maximum is at that moment when you begin your presentation. So try to memorize few lines or few minutes presentation while you deliver, and after that you will by then be comfortable already. So you are nervous and you're worried that you might forget everything. So by memorizing those lines, you will gain confidence, and anything well begun is half done. You have to be rest assured. Now, as you move further, your anxiety will calm down. It will come down. And I can vouch for this personally, since I have myself used it several times. And now, after several presentation, I have already mastered it. So now it won't matter to me. But for any kind of beginner, it matters. So Matt Abrahams has explained really well. If you ever get a chance, do read this book. And there are a few more points that I would again like to mention. Practicing your talk becomes easier, right? It will help you get over any kind of fear of forgetting things. Keep it like an extempore. Don't memorize your entire script, because the more you memorize, the more likely it is that you forget the connects between them. So make it more extempore. Don't memorize the entire content. Next is, relax yourself before the talk. At least half an hour before the talk, don't clutter yourself. Don't talk to people who are discouraging you, or just relax. Take a deep breath, listen to some nice music, think about your presentation, that it is going to do well, and think about relaxing your muscles. You can do that to all the muscles of your body. Try to focus on each one of it. So that particular half an hour, you can give yourself some me time, and that will help you remain calm and composed and poised throughout your presentation. Write down your worries. When you write down what you're afraid of, and about forgetting or skipping any kind of questions or anything else, you will realize that it has nothing to bother you. You're already prepared about it. When you write down your worries, you know that you can relate to it, that you will be able to deal. Now prepare for the contingencies. Now there are a lot of times when it happens that there may be some technical glitches during the presentation. How are you going to deal with it? If I have a presentation and if Anuradha is showing it, and suddenly the electricity goes off, how am I going to do it? So for that, you can be ready with the solutions. You have to hypothetically think of a situation, carry some handouts, and think of multiple copies around you, have multiple gadgets, be ready on the phone also. It will take few minutes, but at least you'll be able to get back to it. Remember that there cannot be unforeseen situations all the time, so you have to accept the situation also, accept the unpredictability of life. Is never the same. It never works the way we want to. It just happens. So be prepared and stay focused and prepare yourself for unpredictability. That is very important. Try to divert your attention and only focus on good people, happy faces. Another important thing is, take the challenge. When you are given the opportunity to talk and your number has come, after 7 or 8 people, try to volunteer and take it as a challenge and tell them, I would like to speak first. Because if you volunteer to speak or present, which is a very, very courageous act, that will help you reduce a lot of fear. That will calm your muscles, and you will be able to enjoy others' presentation as well. You will be focused on listening to what other people have to say, because you are already done with it. And that challenge and that courageous act is going to reap benefits throughout the presentation. That will happen during your school time or college time. And when you are in a professional setup, then you can also opt to take a project. Remember that when you take up a challenge, it becomes easier. In the beginning it will be difficult. Take it and then work on it. Take it and then think how you're going to do it, and that will help you grow as a person in future also. Try to analyze what kind of fears you have. Now this is the last point about conquering stage fear, that there are three types of anxieties. One is audience anxiety, where, for example, you are, just hypothetically imagine that you are going to present a business idea in front of an audience which is full of entrepreneurs, right? And you get nervous because you have big investors also sitting in the crowd. And you know that, if I don't get this project, something will happen. So that is audience based anxiety. The kind of audience that is sitting there develops that anxiety in you. Second kind of anxiety is situation based anxiety. That is, if there is large audience, you may be comfortable talking to maybe 5-10 people, or talking to your friends, or maybe just your peer. But when the number of people in the audience increases, that gives you more jittery feeling, and that is situation based anxiety. And the third kind of anxiety that Abrahams explains is state based anxiety. It is linked to your goal. When you know that your presentation is going to get you a big project in life, and there are a lot of stakes that are rather, the stakes are very high, and that is when your fear increases, which is called state based anxiety. So these three kinds of anxiety. So when you are aware of what kind of anxiety you're going through, you will definitely be able to deal with it in advance. And when you have dealt with it, then that fear definitely goes away. Next slide, please. Now let us work on ways to improve ourselves. Now, if you let me just give you a beautiful quote: never try to chase two rabbits at a time, because if you chase both the rabbits, you will end up losing both. They will skip. So try to be focused on one thing at a time. I know there are many people who are multitasking and they enjoy multitasking because they know they'll be able to pull off any kind of situations or any kind of project or work, and they enjoy doing that. But the idea of becoming a master of a trade is to focus on one thing, and that is what you can do with your presentation also. Starve your distractions and stay focused. Don't be distracted. Get rid of it. Sorry, you have so many things to avoid distractions. Today is a day which is never going to come again. So give your best shot. Be focused. Avoid while you are talking or delivering a presentation. Try not to use those cliches. Also is too much of is also not good. Like for example, all these things are very common cliches that distracts the audience, and that will distract you also after certain time. So avoid repeating the sentences. Try to be innovative and creative as much as possible in your presentation. And when you are creative, you will not repeat, you will not be redundant, right? Refrain from fidgeting while you are delivering a talk or you're presenting something. Don't have anything in your hand. Keep your mobile and your keys and everything in your pocket. Put it aside so that your hands are free, right? When your hands are free, then you are able to express yourself, because while you're talking, your hand and your body movement is very important. And I had mentioned about body language in the previous session also, but here for presentation, the body language has to be entirely different. It has to be calm, composed. Do not put your hands in the pocket. While you are talking, you can use stories and anecdotes and some visuals and pictures and drawings, all these things. And try to invite feedback. When you invite feedback, you are sure that people have liked it. And if even if they don't like it, take it positively, because every feedback will help you grow as a person. Change your attitude towards your next presentation, and always be positive about it. Don't take it personally, otherwise it will ruin you as a person, as a professional. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are other takeaways also. First thing is that you have to speak to your audience and not to your visual aids. There is a big mistake that people tend to make, a very common mistake. They tend to just hold the uh, this thing pointer. They hold it like a sword, as if they are going to fight a dragon during the presentation, and they just keep doing it like this. Put it down. Your pointer is meant to show the points and then put it down. So these are small etiquettes of presenting. When you are talking to your audience, try avoid looking at your audience. Just look at the people around and talk to them, because these slides and these points that I'm looking at are just to help me or facilitate my talk further in a very organized way. I am not dependent completely on it. There is not everything which is written here, right? So these etiquettes are very important. Take pauses in between. Stop, think about it. And again, the value of pause cannot be ruled out. Move around and talk to people. The uh, uh, a better way to do is to just come down from your stage, talk to few people if it's a large gathering. And if it is not, then you can take a pause, and in between also you can ask for feedback. I hope I'm clear to you. Is it fine if I go like this? I would appreciate if you have any suggestions to make, or if you would like to add your opinion to it. So these are the ways in which you give time to people in the audience to think about and grasp what you have said. So avoid any kind of digressions. There are many people in your audience. They will try to distract you by questioning something out of the blue, out of the box. But try not to digress from the topic. Stay focused on what you are there for, and rest everything can be discussed apart from your presentation time, right? And whatever happens, just be ready for the plan B. We've already talked how you can prepare yourself for the contingency plan. And never ignore the interest and concerns of the audience. That is also a very important thing. Many a times people don't realize that the interest of people uh, make things difficult for you to go about it. You have to ask them, instead of thinking that it will distract me. Excuse me. Right. So the audience, the interest of the audience and the concerns can be asked in advance. You can always ask your organizer or your peer group if they have certain points to make. You can incorporate those, because when you are concerned about your audience, then they are also interested in listening, because they want to learn something, they want to understand what exactly is your presentation is about, right? So work hard for your graveyard session. Now by graveyard session I mean to say the sessions that happen after the lunch break. Many a times lunch break sessions, sessions after the lunch break are makes you too sleepy, and you don't feel any amount of interest that can pull you off through the session. But that is the time you have to prepare yourself. You can always do that by keeping certain stories for the post lunch session, certain new ideas, innovative ideas for that matter. And that's how you can make your sessions interesting. Next slide, please. Excuse me. All right. So there are two kinds of thinking. One is focused thinking, and the other is diffuse thinking. When you are a focused thinker, you your mind gets narrowed to a target. You know what you are going to achieve, and you will only talk about that. But a diffused thinking talks about the broader aspects. A focused mind is always methodical in nature, while a diffused mind is meandering. It always keeps wandering around and thinking about new ideas and new perspectives till the end. Now it is up to you to decide what kind of project it is. If it is certain goal oriented, you have to remain focused. But if you are given an abstract idea to talk about, you can have diffuse thinking and keep adding new points till the end, towards the end of the preparation. But when you have a project at hand, you remain focused and be tactical. You have to find certain ways to deal and certain strategies to deal with your presentation. It is important to go deep into it, work deeply in detail, work with all the possibilities. That is about focused mind. But a diffused mind, it tries to uncover new meanings, new connections, new ideas, new strategy, and it keeps on working, right? So as a focused mind, you have fixed neutral path. But as a diffuse mind, you have to develop neutral path. You have to find out a path that will go in, both the situations, good or bad, positive or negative. So when you are prepared with the different kind of thinking, you will have no problem at all, right? So you have to decide whether your diffuse thinking is required here or focused thinking is required. Next slide, please. Okay, now appearance matters. The picture is quite self suggestive, and it says a lot about your attitude. Every time you present yourself, your appearance is basically a reflection of yourself. You without saying anything, you let people know that you are keen about the details, you pay attention to details. It reflects what goes on in your mind, how much you are professional towards your presentation. What you wear is actually a portrait of your inner thoughts. Whatever is going on in your mind is represented or is reflected through your personality and through your appearance. Remember, dress how you want to be addressed. People will address you based on how you have presented yourself. If you go casual, if you go in just sandals or slippers or unmatched clothes or not so ironed and not so immaculately dressed, people are not going to take you seriously. Remember that your style is the way to say who you are without having to speak something. So if you are managing a project, or if you are the coordinator, you have to present yourself in that manner. Otherwise it will have no impact on people. Your shoes have to be polished, nails clean, hairstyle should be neat, and try to avoid any kind of jazzy or flashy accessories or garments or makeup or any kind of perfumes. Appearance matters a lot. Don't ever underestimate the importance of appearance, because people are not just listening to you, they are watching you as well. So it is a simultaneous process. All our senses are at work at that time. So be professional, show a professional attitude through your body language, through your verbal, non-verbal communication, and you're good to go. Next slide, please. All right. Now, what are the common causes of ineffective presentation? Now, we've already talked about how you can make your presentation effective, but it is also important to understand what makes it ineffective. When you talk to your audience and you fail to motivate them, when you are not able to move your audience, you confuse them with the structure, you confuse them with the content, you are going to be ineffective. If you don't plan it properly, if you lack any amount of experience, if you have lack of enthusiasm, you have to show some energy, be charged up, take charge while you are presenting. If you are unenthusiastic, it is quite likely that your audience will also lose interest. They will start dozing off, and you will end up losing the entire show. So you have to keep taking charge of it, and the entire thing will be in your hands. So any amount of ambiguity in the result, any amount of lack of proper planning will create an ineffective presentation, and that happens just once, then nobody gives you another chance. You have to take it or break it. If you are a good presenter, you are likely to get more chances of getting more projects. And if you're not a good presenter, it is more likely that people will not remember you, people will not recognize you, they will not give you another chance for that matter. Next slide, please. All right, how you should present, how you should begin. Dynamic opening is very important. As I have always mentioned, that storytelling, anecdotes, they are very important. They play a very crucial role in holding the attention of the audience and making them feel that there is something interesting coming up. The speaker is going to talk about something intriguing. So let us see. There are many things that we can do. We can play with the words, and we can show some stories. Now, I'll tell you my own story, because I have saved a lesson through my bad experience. A couple of days back, something really horrifying happened to me. There was a lecture that was scheduled for the teachers of a college. And that's a true story. I mean, just a couple of days back. So I had prepared a presentation of about 30 slides with a lot of hard work and a very well researched idea. I was thoroughly prepared, and my topic was ready to be presented. Just on the previous night, my computer crashed, and probably it had to belong to the AI, and I went numb for a very long time, and I spent sleepless nights thinking what could be done about it. There were people who told me cancel the presentation, reschedule it, get an excuse, but I somehow, my conscience did not allow, because somebody had already put across a word, somebody has some hopes from my presentation, from my commitment, and I didn't want to sound like I'm making an excuse for my lack of preparation. So I decided to just get back on my toes the next morning, and I decided to redo everything from scratch. The only benefit of doing such a thing was that I had prepared my previous presentation on my own. Nobody had helped. I had not copied from somewhere. I had not plagiarized. So everything was quite fresh in my mind, because I had already rehearsed it one or two times. So it was quite, of course, I might have missed out on certain points, but I could finally pull it off and put it in place towards the beginning of the session. So I kind of could do it. I presented it, and it went off really well, more than I had expected, because probably I could finish on time. That gave me an assurance that maybe I was going too much with those 30 slides. Probably it only needed 25 slides. So missing out on 5 slides was not a big loss. So I kind of delivered right on time. It was completely well managed. But on a lighter note, I would still say that such fiascos teach us something. And I learned one thing. That night, I realized everyone who stays awake all night is not in love. So that was just on a lighter note. But getting back to the presentation, let me tell you, when you open your speech, you have to ensure that you captivate your audience in the first few minutes. Avoid cliches. Don't begin with, my name is so and so, and today I'm going to present on so and so. That is not required. Talk about why and not what, because audience already are aware of what you're going to talk about. You already know that I'm here to present something on certain topic. So what am I supposed to do? I am supposed to begin on, why am I here? What is the need to do something like this? So the importance of topic is something that can create a bang in right in the beginning. So you can begin with something like couple of days back or yesterday or some years back or something like that. So your personal experiences, it gives a personal touch, a human touch to your presentation, and it makes your conversation lively. Audience become more comfortable with you, and then you link your anecdotes and your experiences to your goal by telling that story. So all these things are going to prove to be a very dynamic way of opening your speech. And you can also experiment with the different quotations, you can experiment with different pictures, you can put together like a jigsaw puzzle and create something innovative. Because the more innovative you are, you have to think out of the box. The more out of the box thinking you use, the more impression you are going to create in the longer run, because everything leaves an impact. Next slide, please. All right, so this is a bit technical thing, the art of rhetoric. Till now, I hope everything is clear. If there is any doubt, you may ask before I begin. Anuradha?
Ma'am, we will take the question answer session after the presentation.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I'll talk about art of rhetoric. Now it's a topic huge in itself. It needs one complete session, but I have taken just few important points to make you clear that the importance of word play is very important, because particular rhetoric word means the simple assertion as to what I say. Whatever I'm saying is rhetoric, right? So the art of rhetoric is means art of persuasion, because anything and everything that we say has a purpose. Nothing is said without a purpose. Sometimes the purpose is just fun, sometimes it is a serious business, or it can be anything. So you have to use your words cautiously. So that is what the rhetoric teaches us. Rhetoric was a theory that was introduced by Aristotle. He was a Greek philosopher, and he designed three modes of persuasion. He had categorically mentioned that there are three ways. One is ethos, pathos, and logos. He said that your message can be more powerful if you use these three methods of persuasion. These are like pillars of your good presentation. Ethos is um, it is like endorsed by a person's fame. It has everything to do with person's credibility. A person in uniform or a particular professional look will make you believe in what he's saying. So if a person with that credibility, with that fame, comes and speaks in front of you, you are likely to believe him, right? So that is the beauty of ethos. For example, here I have used this picture of Taylor Swift. That shows ethos. A person with credibility. If Aishwarya Rai also endorses for beauty products, I'm sure doctor endorsing for the toothpaste, or a sports person endorsing for energy drink, all these things are going to leave an impact. So you can use some ideas uh, or some element of ethos in your presentation if you feel so. Second idea is of logos. Now, logos has everything to do with logic, reasoning, figures, facts, charts, and percentage. So it's basically has to do with mind, logic, right? So these three things are based on heart, mind, and credibility. So when you think about logic, you use percentage. For example, here I've just chosen this picture, that less guilty, more pleasure, 100% effective. There is another example, 90% people who eat chocolate feel energized, or they suffer from tooth decay. So if I use 90% people, it leaves an impact. Okay, my project is, or my presentation is well researched, it has more credibility if I use logos, right? In the beginning, if you remember, I mentioned that 80 to 90% people fear this stage fright. They have this stage fright and they agree to it. So that 80 to 90% is the idea of a research that has been mentioned here. So all these small elements, they make your presentation quite effective. The third is pathos. Pathos has to do with your heart, your feeling, any argument that is based on emotions. It can be fear, sympathy, empathy, anger, happiness, joy, anything that has to do with your emotions is called pathos. Now, how can you use pathos? For example, this picture, a small cute dog or a puppy, and written here, will you help him? Now, you, that particular picture generates so much empathy in you that you would want to help that dog. So that's a way of attracting your audience to contribute to your cause, right? So there are various ways. For example, get this or you will have to face the consequences. So that is the way of inducing fear in people, and you will do it out of fear and not out of respect or out of necessity, right? There are other examples also. Some poor child sitting on a street, having nothing to eat, nothing to wear, that evokes empathy. So images like that help generate pathos. So when you use these three pillars of or the modes of persuasion, you end up making uh, a very credible presentation, and people are going to believe you as a professional. Next slide, please. All right. Now, there are various qualities of an effective presenter. The presenter should have command over the topic. Before he has a command over the topic, they should have command over the language. Now, confidence, language, your skills, all these things are prerequisite to become a good presenter, effective presenter. You have to be poised. Now, by poise, I mean that you are aware of your fears, aware of your anxiety, and still you are able to hide that emotion and present it still in a very effective way. That is being poised, which is different from being calm and composed, right? Being calm and composed is just being cool minded, cool headed. But being poised is very important. Even if you know that you are worried, don't show it to your audience. Don't apologize for anything. Don't verbalize your problems. As an effective presenter, just head on present it. Just confront it, even if you are not in that position, right? Your presentation has to demonstrate the audience that you care. So that can be done through your passion. You have to inspire your audience. And that you can do with the modulation in your voice, with the right amount of tone and intonation. Again, those are technical terms of how your voice should be, right? So your voice has to be interesting. When you address the need of the audience, you become effective. You have to be knowledgeable for that. Unless you prepare about a topic, you will not be understood, you will not be appreciated, and your knowledge should be relevant. Anything and everything from anywhere will make no sense. Again, you are not expected to show your knowledge whatsoever at any point of time. It has to be relevant, absolutely appropriate for that amount of time or position, right? Then your range of strategies and ideas should be new. As I already mentioned, that you have to be innovative in your ideas, bring out something new. When you are presenting, your presentation should look something really innovative. Think out of the box, and that you can do while walking and eating and having a conversation with your friends. Try observe while you are given certain task of a presentation. Try to observe things more. When you observe, you are likely to get new ideas while you are talking or observing, and that will help you in your presentation. When you have clarity of expressions, when you have clarity of new strategies, then you will be able to resolve any kind of problems. It will become so simple and effortless. You have to pay, and towards the end of your presentation, pay serious attention to the questions that are being posed to you, right? Next slide, please. Okay, this is another important thing to understand. Knowing your audience, many a times people only focus on themselves as a presenter. What am I supposed to present? How am I going to present? My language, my body language, my communication skill. But before you do all this, rather after you do all this, you have to also think about your audience. There are four types of audience. Several authors have also attempted this profiling scientifically, by assigning certain characteristic personality traits, and a particular type of people in your audience. And there is a person called Manning and Recchi. In 1960s, they had already worked on this kind of profiling, and they made certain pattern, and based on their research, they provided us a way of, or a canon of understanding how, what kind of personalities or what kind of audience do we have. One is supportive audience. They are highly sociable, they are low in dominance. They don't dominate you, as in their expressions are decent and amicable. They often fear change. They tend to be quite loyal and steady and reliable, and they are good co-workers also. They're very considerate. When you deliver something, they understand you, they cooperate, they're very supportive in nature. Secondly, the kind of audience we can have is emotive. They are the people oriented kind of people, who are lively, who are impulsive, they are at times unstructured, and they welcome change. They are okay. I mean, if you bring out something new, they are happy with it, they can adjust to it, right? So they are emotive in nature. The third kind of audience is, as Manning described, is directive. Now, directive audience, they are highly dominant, and they are low in sociability. Their quality of being social is very low. On the contrary, right? They tend to come across intense and determined and opinionated individuals. They have their strong opinions. They are the ones who may distract you, discourage you. They are the ones who will always interrupt in your presentation, and they might uh, find faults in your presentation. That is the time you have to understand that how you're going to deal with them. So knowing your audience is important, because if you know who are going to listen to you, and you work on them beforehand, nothing will be able to distract you or discourage you. You will be prepared to deal with them in advance, right? They are the ones who often they are perceived as more aggressive and unfriendly. In a professional setup, we generally have those kind of people. A project is given to person A or team A, and a project is not given to B. And when B is supposed to listen to A, they are likely to be more aggressive and unfriendly. And that is why, if they encounter any kind of resistance to their goal at work, they are going to fail. So you have to be aware of it, try to find out through various source and means if those kind of people are there or not. They tend to direct you a lot, right? Because they have lost on something. The fourth kind of audience is reflective audience. They are low in dominance also and sociability also. So one is highly reliable, then we have impulsive and sociable, then we have directive, who are strongly opinionated, and then we have reflective audience, who are low on both the qualities. These kind of individuals, they tend to be very serious, they are precise, and they tend to question. They often can be identified as sitting aloof and just grasping things and waiting for the opportunity to ask questions. They often occupy product related jobs as a scientist or as engineers, in which it is beneficial to be attentive in detail, because they have this knack for collecting details. They will just sit and observe. So they are the ones who reflect later on. They will listen to you throughout your presentation, but towards the end they are likely to reflect on it. So that is why understanding these four categories of audience is very important. Now, there are certain guidelines which are provided to deal with these kind of people. Like for emotive audience, you there is appropriate style of presentation. You can describe issues in broader terms, you can give details in the handouts, you can keep your presentations short and to the point, so that you can deal with them. When you have to deal with supportive kind of audience, you use words that you show care. When you talk to people, show some care towards them. Bring out those aspects of your speech which makes them feel cared completely about the consequences, how it is going to be dealt, and especially if change is likely to happen. So, if your argument shows you have anticipated continuous issues, try to deal with it, right? Then we have directive kind of audience. Now, when you keep the facts and describe the issues or problem in terms of how it affects the working practices, then these people are likely to be quiet, right? Then you cover all the points or arguments in a very logical sequence. So this kind of audience will not have any opinion on it, because what you're doing is in a very logical manner. You're going in a very systematic way with proper strategies in mind. So those kind of people will understand that there is no point in uh, contradicting, right? Then we have reflective kind of audience. So you ensure, when you're dealing with them, ensure that you give them plenty of details, because they are the ones who are sitting to grasp all the details, to observe, and then to pose questions. So your target should be giving details. उनको details चाहिए, मैं दे रहा हूँ. So when you satisfy their hunger for details, they generally remain quiet. Then they will not question too much. But if you avoid details, then they will poke you, probe you, and they will distract you, right? So try to give handouts to support your arguments. Whatever you are doing, provide a handout so that they are satisfied during your presentation, and they sit quietly and do not pose too many distracting questions. Of course, asking question is not a bad quality at all, but inappropriate questions in order to pull you down will have negative impact, right? Now you have to anticipate and prepare your answers, and any kind of objections that they raise. So you have to again hypothetically think, what are the questions that they are going to ask me, how are they going to grill me, and in what way I can actually answer their queries. So if you prepare yourself in advance, it is likely that you feel comfortable in their company. Next. Now, the key points about all this is that it is essential to know your audience and their behavior, their temperament, their qualities, and make sure that your presentation takes account of their existing knowledge also. If you talk about their knowledge, level of interest, what they want from it, then they're likely to remain calm and quiet. They will not discourage you. The audience profiling can help you with this, because they also need some common sense and some experience. Another important thing is that decide on one thing that you want audience to remember. So all these points, they carry huge weightage, because audience size has implication on the level of complexity of your presentation. Because generally speaking, the bigger the audience, the less individual members have in common, because every individual is different. They will have less common qualities, and the simpler the content needs to be. So if you know your audience in advance, you will not have any difficulty, and then you will be able to deal with them in a very holistic manner, right? Now, coming to the characteristics of good presenter. Now I am towards the end of my presentation, so I will be showing you how to actually encapsulate everything and wrap up things. So when I have already talked about the qualities of a good presentation, good presenter, I would like to just quickly touch upon this point. Okay. First thing is, when your body language uh, is is pleasant, you are making an eye contact, you're showing your audience how comfortable and confident you are, you are likely to leave a good impression, because your attitude and confidence plays a huge and important role, right? And that ensures your professional attitude also. Your communication skills have to be in place. That is why I reiterate this fact that work on your communication skills and start working on it today itself, because the later it is, the more difficult it will be for you. So try to give it importance, prioritize it, give it, if not much, give at least half an hour to yourself to reading some books and getting new vocabulary, talking to your people and friends. Even if they laugh at you, let them do it, because your goal is to hone your skills and not to bother about what people have to say about you. So your excellent communication skills will help you achieve a good career, good position in your professional life. And I have already discussed about how you can be poised, how can you remain calm and composed by meditating, or maybe relaxing your muscles, listening to good music, watching good pleasant videos, or maybe just revising your presentation. Give yourself time to relax and make your pace appropriate. Do not run through your presentation, neither go too slow that your audience doze off and you are left with nobody to listen, right? Try not to show off your knowledge too much. Your enthusiasm is a very important thing, because unless you show your enthusiasm, your audience are never going to be enthusiastic. They will be always getting bored of you, right? Imagination is very important. Imagine how you can enhance your skills, enhance your presentation, and how you can bring some ingenuity in your presentation. So unless you have imagination, unless you bring something new, people will not take any interest in your presentation. Your expression has to be clear. That clarity comes only with you have clear mindset. Your ideas should be clear in your mind. Otherwise, you will not be able to deliver proper expressions. All right. When you are a good presenter, your ability to resolve problems is very important, because without which you cannot lead a project, you cannot sell a project, you cannot become a good business person also, because presentations can be of different types. Like, I am here to teach you something that is purely academic. There is another business presentation that only deals with finding new avenues and new ventures and new projects for your future success. So it all depends how you're going to deal with them. You should be ready to resolve their problems, right? Next slide, please. Okay, these are the quick do's and don'ts of a presentation that will help you summarize everything in your mind and be clear about what we have done. So the do's are: be sensitive and considerate towards your audience. Considerate as in understand if they understand your language or not. There may be a certain audience who won't understand English, so be bilingual. If they understand English, then focus on that. So try to find out that in advance, so your consideration and sensitivity towards their understanding, their concerns, will always reap a lot of benefits in future. You have to be amicable, smile at your audience, sound positive and optimistic. Do not use any negative words. Do not show any kinds of doubt in your mind in your presentation. If you show doubt, you are likely to lose a good opportunity, because unless a person is positive about a project, how is he going to pull it off? Right? So when you do that, things will already automatically come handy to you. Next important do's is be honest. Don't hesitate to say no. It is highly appreciated in any kind of setup if I don't know something, because I am also like a human being, of course. As a new learner, I may continue to learn till the end of my life and I won't still know everything. So I should not hesitate in saying, no, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'll work on it, I'll get back to you after I prepare it. So people will appreciate it. Okay, that person did not beat around the bush. The person did not try to waste your time or try to show off his knowledge by just talking any nonsense. Be straight, be honest, and say no. That too politely. The politeness principle I taught you in the previous session. So be genuine and be yourself. Don't try to become somebody known to you, and don't try to imitate them for that matter. If you have those qualities, well and good. If you don't have, just be yourself. Be nice, simple, and effective, and that will be good to go. Now, don't never try to read from your script. Don't uh, just have too much of text or clutter on your slides, or just read it. Try avoiding to read from your slides. Avoid too much of text. Small font is also not a good idea, because small font makes people believe that you are not so considerate. That is also another quality. Avoid being unclear, or through your charts or your visuals. Again, complexities will not lead you anywhere. If you show any complex idea through your presentation, you are likely to be criticized for something. And yes, of course, you have to be ready for the criticism, but do not create a situation where people criticize you for nothing. Right? So avoid looking at the screen. We've already discussed, so you can see in the pictures, those things are quite suggestive of the fact that if your presentation is good, it is likely to be appreciated. If it is not, you end up losing the whole game. So don't show back. I remember a friend of mine had a professor who used to show back to the audience, and the audience used to enjoy sitting behind the back and eating something, drinking something, going out of the class and coming inside and talking and chatting, making fun of him. That actually lost the entire purpose of a presentation, because that person did not have confidence. He could not look at the audience, but that actually went against his impression. Right? Next slide, please. Okay, now this is the brainstorming thing. I have certain points. You can just think about it. I'll just read out one line and think about it, whether it's a yes or a no, whether it's a do or a don't. Right? Understand the interest level of the audience, yes or no. I think if you are able to brainstorm this checklist for the planning sake, you are prepared. Right? Second is using jargons, even if the audience doesn't understand this, good or bad, yes or no, think about it. Right? Using simple language is good or not, we've already discussed that. Make the presentation focused, easy to understand. Prepare a logic tree as in, when you use certain smart clip arts, when you show something with the help of a tree, it is more intelligible. People are likely to appreciate it, because they don't want to apply their brain while they're watching a presentation. They only are there to understand what you're saying. So if you create complexities, then your presentation will fail. So prepare a logic tree and show it with the help of that. There are points. You can skip any point in the presentation if you feel like. Think about it. Is it good to skip a point? If I prepare a presentation which finishes right in time, it will be more appreciated, instead of running through these slides, and okay, I have to skip this because I'm running late, I have to skip that point because I think we will not be able to finish it. That isn't a good idea. Next is, be rigid in following the sequence according to your plan. So think about it, whether it is good to be rigid or not. Being rigid is absolutely not a good idea, but at times when you are running short of time, you have to stick to the points, because sticking to points will never go wrong. But being too rigid may go. So there has to be a neutral attitude. There has to be a balance in your behavior. Now, use any available sources for in depth analysis. Yes or no? Think about yourself whether you use every resource given to you or not, because there is huge amount of data available on internet, on social media. We may end up confusing ourselves. So choose wisely. Be prepared for any kind of questions from the audience. Yes, it's a big yes, because if you're prepared to face any questions, you are a good presenter, because your clarity of mind is going to clear their mind, right? Prepare cue cards. Now there are certain cards that you can always hold in order to help yourself for the contingencies that will always go in your favor. Ignore the audience during your talk. It's their problem if they don't follow. That's a very unfavorable attitude for the audience, and you should not ignore any audience when you're talking. But yes, if they are distracting, knowing audience well, you have to understand that if they don't follow, it's okay, I can talk to them later on. But strike a balance again. Insert abbreviations like AC, MBT, QA whenever possible to make your talk more short spoken is not a good idea in a situation where you are dealing with a new kind of audience. But if they are the people with similar lingo from the same organization who are used to certain abbreviations, then you can use it without any hesitation. But again, unless you are sure that your audience is aware of those abbreviations, do not use it. That is likely to fail you as a presenter. Understand that audience question clearly. When you are going to deal with the question answer round, you have to be attentive. Listen to their question. Don't just hurry up in answering it, right? Last but not the least, provide handouts for additional information. It is always a good idea, though not necessary, but you can always prepare some handouts and give it to your audience, so that while they read, they come across any kind of doubts, they can raise it towards the end. Next slide, please. Okay, so thank you for your attention. I hope you're clear with the points. Anuradha, that's
Yes,
all.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. We will go ahead and take some time for questions now. Just a reminder for the students to type your questions in the chat box. Ma'am, this one is my personal question.
Okay.
What should I do if the person that preceded me covered my topic?
Okay. There are times when people have already covered your topic. Of course, even I have faced such a situation. You can always mention that, so and so has already discussed about it. Now, instead of going step by step, or instead of going through my slides, I would like to just touch upon my views, and I would like to mention the views that he did not mention. So try to acknowledge that other person has already done that, and try not to repeat it, because that is not going to help you in any way, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
it's a good way to just acknowledge and accept it.
Ma'am, we have a question from Ashlesh Patil. His question is, ma'am, what should we do if we have trouble staying within the time slot?
Okay, that's also a good question, because there are many a times presenters keep some extra slides, so that in case they are too fast, they can cover it up. But there are times when you are not very sure whether you will be able to finish in time or not. So for that matter, they keep extra slides. So in that case, try to keep those slides towards the end, which are either similar to those which you've already discussed, or something that may not relate to the topic directly. Or for that matter, you can also use the topics or the ideas on those slides, which will only help you substantiate what you've already said. So so that the audience don't miss out anything, the learners or the team members, they don't miss out anything. So when you are missing out on the time, so select your slides. Most important slides should come in front so that you don't miss out anything. And it's a win-win situation both ways. Miss हो गई तो ठीक है, नहीं हुई तो भी ठीक है.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, we have a question from Ishani Toradmal. Her question is, what should I do if I forget what I was about to say or I can't remember a fact?
Okay, so I think it's important to know yourself that there is a chance of forgetting something. For example, even I have a habit, I would admit, of forgetting. I'm very forgetful, and there are many things in life I keep forgetting. So I have a habit of noting down. So, for that matter, anything that is likely to be forgotten at the right moment, I try to note it down. Even I have certain points ready here so that
Hmm.
I do not miss. And thankfully, I could reach out to those points at the right moment. So it will always help. Keep small flashcards with you so that in case of any emergency, you can just look at it. Nobody, would object to it, and rather it will be appreciated, because standing in front of the audience and fumbling for no reason and showing that you are forgetful or you're showing a poor show is not good.
Ma'am, we have a next question from Priya Pachpute. Her question is, what should we do if we are not familiar with the venue and equipment?
Okay. Again, see, I was also not familiar with you.
Hmm.
I was not familiar. This is a new college for me. So I contacted the coordinator to discuss certain things about the audience, about the place, about different information that I had in my mind. Anything that I had doubts, any kind of, I clarified with Mr. Modak. So basically, for any kind of new place, you're not going to jump into that place from the sky. You will get an opportunity to go through that place with the help of somebody. There is a proper channel that you follow. So somebody who has invited you, you can always go and tell them, I would like to visit that place. To get over your inhibitions, it is always better to visit that place for the first time, so that next time you get familiarized with it and you feel comfortable in that environment.
Ma'am, we have a question from Adnan Patel. His question is, how to keep the audience engaged?
Okay. That's also interesting question. Depends on what kind of audience do I have. If I am presenting something to my students, I can have certain activities. I can have different stories to share. And I can also ask them, if I find that there is some audience who's distracting, who's diverting my mind, and who's talking, I can always point them out and I can say, excuse me, I would like to know your opinion. It seems that you wanted to say something. The moment you point out that person in the audience, that person becomes conscious, and instead of disturbing you, that person will either remain quiet or actually genuinely come up with something. If he comes up with something, it is good for you. You get some knowledge about that person, and your familiarity with that person will help you get over any kind of irritation that he was already creating with you. And that will also help him to understand that the speaker is watching you and should not mess with him. So that's important. You can always ask them.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you again, ma'am, for answering those questions and for the great presentation. It was a pleasure to have you with us. I now
Same.
conclude the
The
session.
session.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
I
I
now
now
conclude the
conclude the
session
session
and
and
hand it
hand it
over to
over to
Ritesh
Ritesh
to
to
extend a
extend a
vote
vote
of
of
thanks.
thanks.
Thanks, Anuradha. Good afternoon, all. As all good things come to an end, so is the webinar. On behalf of Civil Department, AISSMS College of Engineering, I, Ritesh Tanpure, take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this webinar. At the outset, I thank our chief guest, Dr. Pragya Bajpayee ma'am. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence. I would also like to thank our principal, Dr. D.S. Bomane sir, and our head of department, Dr. Avari sir, for motivating students to achieve overall excellence. A special thanks to Savan ma'am, Modak sir, Misal sir for their unflinching support and coordination. Also to the student coordinators Ashlesh, Sanket, Atharva, Ajinkya, and all the co-members who worked really hard to make this session successful. Our heartfelt thanks to all students for active participation. The link for feedback form has been added in the chat box. All the attendees are requested to kindly fill the form and get issued with the e-certificate. There is a request to all participants to turn on their videos for volunteers to capture this wonderful moment. Okay, everyone, thank you. Please fill the feedback link.
Thank you, Ritesh. Thank you, Anuradha.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for the lovely words and for being such lovely audience too.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Modak sir? Hello.
Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation in such a short notice and giving both the presentations so nicely, ma'am. They were very informative, and we would like to extend this association in future also, ma'am.
It's a
Thank you.
reminder.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Sanket, we can end up the meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes. I will wait for 2 minutes for feedback
Yes,
link and then
yes,
we will end up
yes.
this.